A bored person is a fascinating creature. You give them nothing to do, and within minutes, their mind starts building castles. They compose music, invent problems to solve, scroll through their phone, pick fights, start businesses, or fall into existential despair. Animals don't do this. Leave a cow alone with nothing to eat, and it will just stand there. Leave a dog alone, and it sleeps. But leave a human alone with nothing to do, and the results are unpredictable. Boredom is one of the strangest things about us, and scientists are only beginning to understand why we feel it. The word boredom didn't even exist in English until the 1800s. Before that, the closest thing was a Latin concept called acedia, described by medieval monks as a spiritual torpor, a listless inability to care about anything. They considered it one of the most dangerous sins, not because it led to sloth, but because it led to everything else. Monks consumed by acedia would abandon their devotions, pick quarrels, wander off, and sometimes leave the monastery entirely. The church understood something that modern psychologists are now proving with data. Boredom doesn't make you do nothing, it makes you do anything. In 2014, a psychologist named Timothy Wilson ran a series of experiments at the University of Virginia. Participants were placed alone in a room with nothing. No phone, no book, no distraction. Their only job was to sit quietly with their thoughts for 15 minutes. Most people hated it, but here is the part that made headlines around the world. When given the option to administer mild electric shocks to themselves instead of sitting alone with their thoughts, 67% of men chose to shock themselves. Not once, repeatedly. One man shocked himself 190 times in 15 minutes rather than sit in silence. This is not an exaggeration. This is a published study in Science magazine. What this tells us is that the absence of stimulation is genuinely aversive to the human brain. We experience it as something we must escape at any cost. Your brain has a mode that activates when you have nothing specific to do. Scientists call it the default mode network. It fires up during rest and daydreaming, and it is extraordinarily active and energy-hungry. When you are bored, your default mode network kicks in and starts doing something extraordinary. It begins simulating futures. It imagines conversations you haven't had, problems you haven't solved, scenarios that don't exist yet. It is essentially a prediction engine that runs on idle, constructing models of possible worlds. This is the mechanism behind human creativity. This is why boredom is not a bug. It is the engine. Every piece of art, every scientific theory, every religion and philosophy and political system that has ever existed can be traced back to a human brain that had nothing pressing to do and started wondering. The agricultural revolution likely began with people who had too much time and started experimenting with seeds. The first musical instruments were probably made by someone sitting around a fire with nothing to do. The entire project of civilization is, in a meaningful sense, the product of human boredom. But here is the problem. We now have smartphones. The average person checks their phone 96 times a day. Every time you feel the first flicker of boredom, you reach for a device that instantly fills the gap with stimulation. You never have to feel bored. And increasingly, people never do. What we don't yet know is what we're losing. If boredom drives creativity and boredom drives the default mode network, and the default mode network is where your best thinking happens, then chronic boredom elimination might be the quietest intellectual crisis of the modern age. The monks called acedia a dangerous sin. They had no idea how prophetic that would turn out to be.